You're in a safe blue district, as Sam mentioned, obviously, Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. Does it change your calculation at all, given some of the polling that we're seeing coming out of Democratic voters and how they view leadership as having failed them right now? I mean, I've never seen this kind of reaction from people that might have been, say, supportive of a Nancy Pelosi in the past, but now, Hakeem, at least under Hakeem Jeffries, there seems to be, amongst even moderate and liberals, this anger about an inability to fight. Is that something you're incorporating into your campaign and tying Pelosi to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I was a part of the wave of the folks who are getting increasingly upset because of what I saw from the Democratic Party after the election. After Trump won again, I really thought the Democrats would have sort of this come to Jesus moment where they're like, all right, we screwed up big time. Let's go back and figure out what to actually change. And then, I saw Pelosi do an interview with Ezra Klein where she basically made the argument for why Democrats shouldn't change and did nothing wrong in the last election. And then you saw her, I'm sure you guys followed this, where she used her considerable power within the caucus to push AOC out from being head of the Oversight Committee, which is the main kind of communications organ of the Democratic Party. Whatever people think of AOC, everyone agrees she's an amazing communicator. And, she pushed her aside to get kind of her loyalist, Jerry Connolly, nice guy, but not the guy for the moment, to be the chair of the Oversight Committee.
He's also one of the most sprightly guys with cancer in Congress. I mean, we have to concede. And it only took literally 8 appearances on television before he could figure out to have his camera at eye level and a microphone to communicate to the American public. And he certainly was successful in making, he said, I think the quote is, they had to scramble at one point on the committee. So that is,
Yeah, I mean, to the point you made, Emma, about why are people so upset at the Democrats? It's because they got this culture where they're like a big company filing TPS reports. Donald Trump will say something crazy and they'll be like, let's set up a press conference next week to discuss. and everything is seniority based. They just can't change, and they can't even imagine how they could have some sort of bigger vision because they don't believe in that, right? And that's why, the polling that you're talking about, Emma, I think is really showing that the time is right now to change the whole party. People are just sick of what the leaders are doing right now. And I don't think they can imagine people like Chuck Schumer suddenly changing, and having some sort of vision. It's like goes against every fiber of their being to be that way.
What is it that what do you in your opinion accounts for that? I mean, you mentioned this dynamic with the donors, but staring them in the face is an example of people who can raise money by small donations. I don't know if Ocasio-Cortez makes or Sanders make less, has less calling hours for themselves anyways, because they have small donors or more. I would imagine it's certainly not a huge, they're not doing that much more
Right.
with the small donors. I mean, so there's a model out there. So it's not like, is it just that these people don't believe in anything? Is it a corporate just risk averseness? And is it just simply, well, when I came into Congress in 1994, this is the way we did things, and Bill Clinton was triangulating, and we had to Tip O'Neill would have a beer with Reagan, and that was the lore, and McGovern was still hovering in the background, and we all thought we don't want to be a hippie. What are the factors that go into this? And maybe it's not that important, but it's maybe just a point of curiosity, but it also is a way of perhaps maybe there are some sort of more low-hanging fruit out there. I don't think Chuck Schumer's ever going to change, but there may be other politicians there who can be, retrained in some way.
Yeah, first of all, I know, at least from the horizon there, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't do any call time, so she gets to actually do her job when she's in Congress rather than spend all her time on the phone. But I think it's a lot of all the above, and I think it's a belief in not having a national message or national leadership. They hammered this home so many times when I was in these caucus meetings where they would talk about how everyone's got to run their own local race. And, they would really celebrate, the local news reporting on the number of potholes that got fixed. And that all sounds kind of good in theory, but the right does have a national message, and they're hammering it over and over, and they've got a plan, and they're telling you why your life is getting worse and why you need to, we need to kick out all the immigrants. So if you're not combating that with any sort of a national message and some sort of a vision on the other side, I think you're going to lose, and I agree with you. I actually think there are some people in the caucus who, if there was a different kind of leadership, would go along with that. But I don't think it's going to come from the folks that are in there right now on their own. I do think there's just this deep-seated, I think, it's a bunch of different reasons, different for different people. Some people are just in there as the kind of next step in their career. It's a lot of people just are afraid, if you say something, it can get used in an attack against you. And the Democrats just at their core believe that any messaging battle they're going to lose. So they don't even want to have them. They don't want to publicly fight for the things that they believe in, which half the time isn't anything. So that makes it difficult. There's all this, there's been such an argument of should Kamala have gone on Joe Rogan, and should the Democrats have done more oppositional media, and they're still not doing it. And they're still not going on, shows like this or shows on, all across YouTube and social media and the stuff that people are paying attention to, because what are they going to talk about? And Hakeem Jeffries is doing those shows, and you see what he talks about, and it's terrible. It's him just going on and making a case for doing nothing, which is, that's.
Well, he's being attacked from both the right and the left. So I think we know he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But that part about the idea of all politics are local is fascinating to me because the Democrats controlled Congress for 60 years. 50 years, and it was I think Tip O'Neill was probably the speaker for almost all of that, and it was his all politics are local. What has changed since then is that almost all media is national.
Yep.
And so this messaging, it's almost as if like they just have not been pulled into the late 20th century, never mind like the 21st century. It's terrifying.
Right.
And part of that is I do think they don't, when it comes down to not having a vision, I don't think the Democrats even agree that there's a problem. Like when I say something like, for the vast majority of Americans, life has been getting worse. Republicans will say that opportunistically, and they all say it. But the Democrats don't even agree on that. They don't actually even want to say that, because half of the time they're talking to people who don't have that problem and who don't want to talk about that problem, right?
Right.
I mean, do you think that that's it too? The constituency that the Democrats have sought actively, Chuck Schumer saying for every, blue collar worker we lose, we'll gain one in the suburbs. It seems like that vision has been tested and it's been an abject failure.
Yeah, and that was the part that was surprising to me after the election, is I thought this election was a test of that vision, and they seem to have doubled down on it. And it's not just that constituency. I want to be clear. It's also, Hakeem Jeffries going around just trying to do the VC apology tour. It's as if they thought, they really feel like the tech CEOs and people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg went over to the right because we weren't nice enough to them. The right spent 2 years bashing those guys. They were bringing them into committee hearings over and over again, complaining about tech censorship, and they just bashed them into submission. And all those guys know that they have to go along with Donald Trump or they're gonna get attacked. And the Democrats' response to that is, let's be nicer to them and to try to convince them to come back to our side, that's never going to work in the first place. So, and also that's not how you win elections. That you're talking to the VCs of the world is not going to win you the next election.
It's fascinating to me. I can't tell if they're just like in a such a tight bubble that they can't sort of step out and see what they're doing looks like to 85% of the country, 90% of the country, or if it is just sort of like a cultural thing. They just come out of some type of like corporate culture where this is just the way. I mean, I don't know. That was my feeling when we saw the three campaign people on Pod Save America. It was all like, this is a big CYA tour, so we're all here together, and we agreed that it's like headwinds. It was all headwinds.
Yeah, and I don't think it's got to be whole new people that come into a party, because it's not they're not gonna get rid of people like Cuomo. I mean, Cuomo's making a comeback tour right now. It's nuts. Half the country, more than half the country, think both parties are corrupt. Of course, Trump's level of corruption is on a whole new astronomical level, but it doesn't matter. For the Democrats to actually make a case against Trump from any sort of ground, the current people in there aren't going to be able to make it, because everyone knows, they're also bought out. They're doing insider stock trading. They're also playing the same games, and they've got no vision. So they're playing the same games, but they're on their back foot. So they can't win. I think the current party, just as it is, maybe they can wait for a pendulum to swing back, but then it's going to swing back the other way, and it might be worse the next time.
All right. Before we let you go, I have to ask you, are you worried that if you do unseat Pelosi, or that your challenge of Pelosi is going to impact the day traders who follow her portfolio, her stock portfolio, which apparently performs incredibly well?
Yeah, why are you being an anti-economic populist?
And there are literally apps you can get to follow Nancy Pelosi's trades so that you can mimic those. And apparently it outperforms the stock market by some, I don't know, 1,000% or something.
Yeah, it's I actually had a guy on a voter call last week who works at a company that Pelosi recently traded, and their stock went crazy right after. And he was like, look, voting for you is going to be worse for me personally, but we got to do it, So I think I got the day traders too.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Where can people get more information? Where can they join you if they want to run? Where can they donate or volunteer if they're in the neighborhood? Where should people go?
So everyone should go to my website. It's saikat.us. I'm sorry, my name is hard to spell. Saikat.us. But you can also sign up for our Zoom call there. Whether you're in San Francisco or not. I'm doing calls with San Francisco voters every day, but I'm also doing a call with people all across the country once every couple of weeks, because I do want to try to organize this national movement. So you can sign up for a Zoom call with me there, and any help would be very much appreciated.
So, folks, if you're living in Virginia, or you live upstate New York, or you're in Nebraska or whatnot, and you're interested in running, I mean, it's helpful, and people win in these situations. We will put a link to your website at majority.fm. Saikat Chakrabarti, really appreciate your time today. Wish you the best of luck, and we'll check in a couple of months, and hopefully you're going gangbusters.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.